Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. So my name is Steve, and I started a company called Valtown, and I have trouble describing it, but recently I've been using the phrase delightful serverless functions. So if you've used AWS Lambda or Cloudflare Workers, it's kind of like that, but hopefully a lot more fun. And so I've been programming for a long time now, and I also build developer tools. And I think I've been seeing a lot of confusion in our industry about AI, and particularly what the role of the human brain in programming is now and will be in the future. And so I hope this talk will clear it up. So this is from a recent blog post I saw by Steve Yegge, The Revenge of the Junior Developer. And as you can see, he predicts that traditional programming is going to die off, as well as code completions like GitHub Copilot, and it will be replaced by vibe coding, coding agents, agent clusters, and even agent fleets. And so by the end of next year, we programmers, he predicts, we won't be using AI directly. We're going to be interfacing with AI managers who will in turn manage fleets of AIs that will be coding on our behalf. That's the confusion that I want to address. So I think it's important to talk about vibe coding, because this is a term that is all of a sudden everywhere, and it's only a term that's 4 years old, and there's a lot of confusion about it. And so if any of you here care about AI, you should be reading Simon Wilson. And what Simon Wilson will say, yes, a Simon Wilson fan in the audience. What Simon Wilson will say is that everyone misunderstands what vibe coding means, and we should go back to the original definition. I'm good, okay. Oh, it's unrelated to me, great. All right, so let's go back to the original definition to make sure we all understand and we're all on the same page about what vibe coding is. So this is the definition. It was coined February 2nd, 2025, just 4 months ago, and yet there's a ton of confusion. Oh, and I should point out that one of the people who's confused is this guy, Steve Yegge, who I was quoting earlier. So I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but I'm gonna point out a couple key points of what vibe coding is. Vibe coding is a new kind of coding where you fully give into the vibes and forget the code even exists. That's the core thing about vibe coding. It's when you aren't paying attention to the code. There are other kinds of AI programming, and we all do that. But there's a specific kind where you don't look at the code. And so even if you want to do something simple, like decrease the padding on the sidebar by half, you don't do it. You ask the AI to do it because it'd be too hard to find that code for yourself. You accept all. And then I think that, this part's really profound. Eventually the code will grow beyond your comprehension, and there are bugs, and you have to read through it for a while, and that is unpleasant. So in summary, vibe coding is not too bad for throwaway weekend projects, but it's not really coding. It's just a kind of coding that's now possible. If you didn't get it, this is Andre's clarifying himself. Vibe coding is when you have no idea what you're doing, like a dog trying to solve a problem with a car. Okay, so just to be clear, I'm not against vibe coding. I think vibe coding is awesome, and I do it all the time. And hopefully many of you guys do too. There are tools like Lovable, Bolt, Cursor, etc. I've made many vibe coding. I've made tools that allow other people to vibe code, which I'll show later. I think vibe coding is awesome, but it's really only awesome for prototypes and throwaway projects. And there's an important reason why. There's something very crucial about programming that we've all seemed to have forgotten, which is that programming as an activity is fundamentally about theory building. It's not about producing lines of code as fast as we can. And we know this. We know this as software engineers, that lines of code is not a true measure of productivity. Here, there's a good quote. Programming should be regarded as an activity by which the programmer forms a certain kind of insight, a theory of the matters at hand. This is in contrast to people thinking that programming is about producing lines of code as fast as we can. And we know this. We know that senior engineers who know a code base are much more valuable than people who don't know the code base. In fact, code that nobody understands, we actually have a phrase for this, a universally despised phrase. We call that legacy code. And by definition, vibe code is code that you don't understand. So by definition, vibe code is legacy code, by definition. And this is why it's only good for prototypes and throwaway projects, because when you make it and you don't need to depend upon it because you're going to throw it away, it doesn't matter that it's legacy code. It's legacy code that you can throw away. But if you make something that you don't understand, and then people, yourself, others, depend on that thing, and then there are bugs, or you want to add features, now you're in for it. Now you've adopted all sorts of technical debt. You've created this legacy code system for yourself that you have to actually understand. And Andre, who coined the phrase, he's totally on board with this. When there's code that you actually professionally care about, in contrast to vibe coding, you need to keep a very tight leash over this eager junior savant, as Ronnie was saying. And you have to be slow, defensive, careful, paranoid, and always take the inline learning opportunity and not delegating your thinking. And I think this word delegate is really profound, because, and I like how delegate is a verb and the same word as the noun, delegate to a delegate. And this is very similar to this other word, agent, that's very popular right now. Everyone is trying to like delegate their thinking to agents. I'll have my agent talk to your agent kind of thing. 2025 is the year of the agent. But I think it's very ironic that in the same year that we're all being told to delegate our thinking to agents for programming, we're also being told that we should all be adopting founder mode, and that there's no decision that's beneath our notice. There's no detail that's too small for the CEO to care about. Like, the best products are made from CEOs who care about like all the little product details, like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. And these things are in obvious tension. If we're trying to delegate our thinking to robots, how can we be in the weeds with the details? There's another irony, which is that human agents stink. Like, have you guys seen the classic AI agent demo is like a flight booking demo. It's like you ask the AI to book a flight for you and like watch it like go to Expedia and book a flight for you. Do any of you guys use a human agent to book flights? Do you guys use a human travel agent? Like, obviously not. Like, we would prefer the interface, the user interface, where we could see all the options, the trade-offs. Oh, I want to leave it this time, but wow, it's like twice the price. It's leaving at a slightly different time, so I'll change my mind. And I can contrast that to the map and the different airports and my calendar. You don't want a human intermediating this for you. You want fantastic tools. Ultimately, I would claim tools are better than agents in almost every scenario. And when there's a scenario where you feel like you want to delegate to an agent, that's because you don't have a good enough tool. And we should build that tool. And we could use AI to build that tool. We should not build you an agent. Tools, this is from Brett Victor, who is a big influence of mine. Tools address a human need by amplifying human capabilities. And there's a part that fits the need, the problem, and there's a part that fits the human. This is very important. A good tool is shaped like this. A hammer is not a chat interface. It's very important that a hammer is a hammer. A steering wheel is also not a chat interface. Nobody wants to drive a little to the left, a little to the right. You will crash. We also have a universally recognized phrase of what it's called when the person who doesn't have their hands on the steering wheel is trying to drive the car with their voice. That's called backseat driving, and it's bad. You shouldn't try and drive a car with your voice. There are only two correct interfaces for driving a car. One is a steering wheel, and one is a map. These are the only two precise levels of abstraction. Anything else is bad. And so up until now, I've agreed with Andre. Here, I disagree. English is not and will never be a programming language. And people have been saying this for the last 70 years. People have been saying that as long as programming has existed, people have said that English will be a programming language. And it's not true now, and it's still not true in the AI age. No matter how smart the AI gets, code is the correct medium for software. And if you think back to that hammer diagram, there's a part that fits the human, and there's a part that fits the machine. The part that fits the human is that we can only think of 7 things plus or minus 2 at a time. And so we need tools for abstraction so that we can only think of 7 things at a time and then abstract away all the details, and then we can think of different layers of abstraction at different points in time. So functions let us do that. And then the part that fits the machine, the problem, is that code can be compiled down to instructions that can be run on a chip very quickly. Code is really a wonderful tool for describing software interfaces. There are a couple of cool quotes here. This one is from Dijkstra from, I don't know, like 10 or 20 years ago. Instead of regarding the obligation of formal systems as a burden, we should regard the convenience of using them as a privilege. Thanks to them, school children can learn to do what in earlier days only genius could achieve. And for this kind of thing, I think about like the difference between Roman numerals, like doing multiplication in Roman numerals versus Arabic numerals. A good notation. It's an amazing tool for thinking. The naturalness with which we use, and this next point I think really jives well with what Ronnie was saying earlier. The naturalness with which we use our native tongues boils down to the ease with which we use them for making statements, the nonsense of which is not obvious. English just hides all sorts of issues we don't even know about. Bertrand Russell says basically the same thing. Everything is vague to a degree you do not realize till you have tried to make it precise. Programming as an activity is a lot like writing, which is a lot like thinking. These are tools that you use to communicate to others, to humans or to machines, but they're also tools you use to sharpen your own thinking. And so there's vibe coding, but is there vibe writing? Are people using writing without caring about the actual words that they're writing? They're just talking to AI and having the writing, and then they're not reading the writing that the AI produces. I'm sure there are kids in school that are doing that. But is this the future of writing? Obviously not. And the same is true with vibe coding. It's a way to do certain things, throw away projects and prototypes, but it's not pointing to the future of programming. And a key reason is that there's two different ways of thinking about code. There's a top-down way and a bottoms-up way. Top-down is like the goals of what you're trying to accomplish, and bottoms-up is what's possible in the computer. And when you're prompting, you're doing a top-down thing. You're like telling the computer what you want it to do, and then it's having to figure out the bottoms-up stuff. And you need both. And I think it's a big mistake. I think a big part of the confusion is people think we can only do the top-down part and forget about the bottoms-up. But what's amazing about bottoms-up stuff, if you've ever done any creative endeavor, like programming, like writing, is that the bottom, which all of you have obviously, is that the details, the bottoms-up stuff surprises you. You have a goal, you have an idea of how to accomplish it, and then as you get going, you get closer to the bottom and, oh wow, that wasn't possible. Or there's like extra complexity there. And then it changes your goals. And if you let it, it could obviously change who you are as a person. And I think that's part of what makes a person technical. When you let the interplay between your high-level goals and the bottoms-up details like interact. Which of course is related to how it seems like every day in the news there's a new CEO telling the kids of next year to stop learning how to code, as if AI can do it all for us and it's not valuable anymore. So I spent a lot of time teaching my brother and other people I find on the internet how to code. It's like a passion of mine. And I don't want to be the kind of teacher who says you need to learn something because I learned that thing, because I had teachers like that and it was really annoying. And so when AI was first coming out a year or two ago, I was like, maybe you don't have to learn about use state in React, or maybe you don't have to learn about HTTP. Maybe you don't have to learn about database design. Like maybe the AI can take care of those details for you. And I was wrong. Well, I guess for prototypes and throwaway projects, people who don't know those things can get really, really far. And it's awesome what they can make with vibe coding tools like Lovable Bolt and then Townie, which is the one that I've made at Valtown. But then when they get stuck so hard and in the most hilarious ways. They don't even know where any code is running. They have no idea that there's code running on a client and there's code running on a server. They have no idea that there's also data being stored in a database. That's a separate system. They don't understand database design, database tables. It can get really bad. And then, like I was talking to someone that I've been trying to mentor. She shipped a vibe coded app to the App Store and it has users, and that's awesome. And we were going through the code together and she doesn't understand any of it. And now it's a liability. Now every line of code, even the lines of code that the AI wrote that aren't being used anywhere, those are liabilities. Like we have to figure out, we have to be sure, we have to like go test it. Okay, are these actually not being used anywhere? Okay, let's delete the file. Let's make sure it's not being used anywhere. So that's where you can run into if you really think that vibe coding is the future of programming. Okay. So is it any coincidence that every CEO of all big tech companies are technical? They all have engineering backgrounds. See, there used to be a time when we thought that code monkeys were code monkeys and we could have MBAs leading technical companies. But we now know the importance of, like, even if you're up at the highest level of abstraction, you need to know details about the bottoms up and how engineering is done. For example, this is what birthed the cloud computing age. Jeff Bezos, a guy who obviously programmed in C, said, we need to make malloc for the internet. Do you think a MBA could have come up with this? Obviously not. For God's sake, even in 2025, the Catholic Church is hiring technical CEO of the Catholic Church. Thank you for the pity laughs. I've been excited about that joke. Okay, so if all this is true, how did we all get so confused? I think there are a couple of reasons. There are three reasons. The first one is that we spend a lot of time waiting for LLMs. And the reason we wait for LLMs is because new LLMs come out, and they're the smartest ones. The smartest ones are always the slowest ones. More intelligence is better, especially if you're turning off your brain and delegating to the machine while you go scroll on TikTok. And then you lose your flow, you lose your context, and then you need to ask the LLM again to fix the thing. And we've kind of lost the plot. Related to this, there are all these asynchronous agents. There's codecs that they're like launching every day, a new asynchronous agent. They're like leaning into the fact that that it takes a long time. As if the dream for all of us is like, wouldn't you love to wake up to a dozen pull requests you have to review? It's like what we all want is a remote team of developers who work when we're sleeping, and we wake up and we have to review a bunch of pull requests. So my inspiration, Brett Victor, likes to talk about creators need an immediate connection to what they're creating, and that has totally gotten lost because we're all so used to, we've gotten accustomed to waiting for LLMs. Okay, another reason we've gotten confused is that there's a new one every single day. Gemini Pro 2.5 June 5th launched today. Is it amazing? Is it going to solve all of our problems? Maybe. I don't know. We all have to try it out immediately to find out. Someone wise on the internet said that if the violin changed every 6 months, nobody would learn it. And I think that's kind of what's happening with these AI tools. And people go on Twitter and claim all these feats of engineering with AI, and I didn't even look at the code. It's just AI is replacing all these processes, and if you can't replicate the results, it's a skill issue, or you know what, just wait a week, and then the next AI will make it possible to replicate the results. And to be fair to AI, the progress is insane. Like the Pareto frontier is like 1,000x in a year and a half, which is the same time period the Moore law does it 2x, and the 2x has been the tectonic force that makes our whole industry possible. So 1,000, things are moving very fast, and we all think that if only this continues, we'll never have to use our brains again. Okay, the third reason is that we're fundamentally limited by our imaginations, and this is a common thing with new media. All new media at first resembles old media. That's because we don't even know what's possible, let alone desirable. And you could think of like the banner ads of the Yahoo age. We're just replicating ads from magazines because we don't know. It's just impossible to imagine the Google-based advertising model back when the internet was created. So, for example, when accounting looked like this, you may have thought that the future of accounting is some tool to manage like a room full of accountants. It would have been very hard to imagine that a tool would enable a single person to do what a room of accountants could do. And this has nothing to do with managing a person or managing a room full of people. Like this is not a fleet of computers. This is a tool, and you know it's a tool when it's transparent, when you forget that the tool exists. You see through the tool to the problem domain, like a hammer. You forget the hammer exists, you're just hitting the nail. And this is the same with a spreadsheet. And nobody would say, okay, well, spreadsheets exist. They can do addition, they can do sum. We don't need to teach kids about math anymore. Like kids can just do the sum on this without even knowing what a sum is. And that's the exact same thing as saying non-programmers can learn in Lovable how to make web apps without understanding what HTTP is. It's the same as saying you can use a spreadsheet without knowing what a sum even means. This is so you don't have to perform the sum calculation, not so you don't have to know what a sum means. Okay, so I'm gonna have to pause this video a couple times because it is just too fast and the amount of absurdity is too funny. Okay, great. So this is on the GitHub homepage right now. Oh man, it's going too fast. Okay, so I wrote most of my talk before I saw this. They want us to delegate like a boss. So it's this word delegate that I don't like, and like a boss, replicating old forms of media. It's like making us think like the future of programming is managing agent programmers things, whatever. Okay, so the correct interface, according to them, of how you should code is to just make a ticket. Okay, because programmers love making tickets. Let's just make more tickets. That's programming. Then you assign the copilot, and it gets to work. All right, this is just too good. So I'll let her finish, and then I'll make fun of her. Okay, so we want to make the CSS position sticky. Does anyone know how to make the CSS position sticky? You change the word fixed to sticky. Do you know how much less writing it is to write sticky than to write can you make the position sticky so that the side panel sticks only within the content selection? This is learned helplessness. This is not a tool. This is recreating old forms of media with new forms of media around the limitations of the current limitations of the new media. Like now they take a long time, but they won't always. All right. Let's see. Yeah, it made it sticky. Great. Okay. We can move on. AI is not your employee. The spreadsheet has nothing to do with managing a room full of human accountants. Driving has nothing to do with the upkeep of a horse. And this is why the original killer app of AI coding was so successful, the magic autocomplete. It was familiar. It was like an old form of media, but magical. But most importantly, it was a tool. It was transparent. You weren't talking to it in a chat interface. You were just doing your normal stuff, and then it was providing help in a tool sort of way, not as an employee sort of way. The Cursor folks do a great job of this. I don't want to. There are other vibe code hypers that I'm pointing at. Okay, so it seems like there's one way that is the future of programming that some people seem to think, which is where you turn off your brain, you atrophy your thinking, and there's a form of learned helplessness. But there's another way that I'd like to invite us all down, which is where we use AI to use our brains maximally, where we use AI to do the drudge work, the busy work, the stuff that we know exactly how it works, like the sum function in a spreadsheet, so that we can free up our human brain to think about the high-level details, where we're not delegating or taking we're taking every inline learning opportunity. And I just want to flash, there are really only two visions of what like tech utopia looks like in terms of tool use. Neither of them are perfect, but I feel obligated to be like, it should be like this, a tool. Or like, obviously, Iron Man. This is what we should aspire to. And is Iron Man's interface to like an army of assistants? Is he managing like armies and armies of people that he's talking to as he's fighting bad guys? Obviously not. He's using tools to become superhuman. And that's what we should be doing. We should not be investing in agents. We should be investing in tools with AI. DHH, I think, gets it. He uses LMs all day long, but not to write his code. It's looking up APIs, explaining concepts, but I want to reserve the fun part of programming for myself, actually writing the code. And I think here's a clue. If it's fun, we shouldn't delegate it. And I think the reason for this is that the human brain works in a particular way where if you're having fun doing something, it's probably worth doing. It's probably interesting enough to not give away. If you're not enjoying doing it, great, let's build a better tool to help you see through that part of the problem. I'm going to show a couple other examples of folks who really get it. This is an app called, this is like a product launch for an app called Descript, which is a video editing tool. Maybe some of you guys have used. They really understand the concept of tools. It's a video editing app. After you record the video, they transcribe the video. And then you, as the video editor, edit the transcription. You like edit words. And then they reflect the edits to Word. You delete a sentence, they like cut that out of the video. And you add something to the video, they add it to the transcript. It's a two-way syncing between the level of abstraction that the human wants to edit, and then it syncs it to the problem domain. That's what a tool's supposed to be. And they have continued in that vein. Nobody wants an AI overlord, but everyone can use an AI underlord, an editing assistant that does all the tedious stuff but leaves you in control. And so they have like all these awesome buttons to like remove ums or remove retakes. Anything that's obvious, it can do. But editing the actual text, That's what we here are trying to do with our human brains. And the folks at Cursor, I think, also really get this. And I saw from a show of hands that most of you already use Cursor, so I want to talk about why Cursor is great. I'll just say that the folks at Cursor, they talk about these as zero entropy decisions. Like whenever they can predict with 90% certainty where you want your cursor to be or what code you want written, they'll write that code for you. They'll put your cursor in that spot. That's awesome. That's exactly what a tool should feel like. It should be the humans in control, the humans leading things, and then the robot assistant, like in Iron Man, is just like giving you what you need before you thought you needed it. That's awesome. I think this next one is finally one of my own. So this is an app called Cerebrus Coder, and it uses Cerebrus's like super fast inference to vibe code. So like I said before, I do love vibe coding. This is vibe coding. I don't at all read the code that I'm generating in this demo. This demo is about like how fast I'm doing stuff. So I put a timer up on the screen, and every time I hit enter, it goes to Cerebrus, and in about 1 second, it gives me like a whole new HTML file. And the point of this demo is like that creators need an immediate connection to what they're creating. That's what Brett Victor said. And this gives you that with AI. And it shocks me that nobody else is trying to do stuff like this. The original killer app, the completions, those were instant, and that's awesome. And it's not the smartest model. The completion, if a completion is bad, you just forget about it. And this is kind of in that vein. Like let's only use models that are super fast. And big surprise, Cerebrus keeps getting their models faster and faster and smarter and smarter. I'm really excited to do the next version of this demo with like an agentic loop. I know I hate agents, but agentic loops are cool. I'll show you another one in a sec. If you fully understand that theory and like understanding your code is more important than writing lines of code as much as possible, which we all as programmers know, then we should be using AI to help us understand code. And Ronnie was doing that, and it's awesome. And that's kind of what I want to show off, a couple examples of that. So my friend Glenn, like 5 or 6, 7 years ago, made this amazing demo. It's like what a GitHub repo could look like if you were optimizing it for explaining how the code works to people. So this is a library called Fuzzy Set, which helps you figure out misspellings. So this is all about the misspellings of Mississippi, and the libraries, the dictionary is all US states, and you get to like really develop an intuition of how this code works. This is awesome. This is transferring the theory building that he had in his brain to other people through these interfaces. But nobody does this. Nobody like puts together these like amazing interactive visualizations for how to understand code, because they take a lot of time. If only we had a way to make throwaway interfaces very quickly. We finally found a use for vibe coding. And my friend Jeffrey Litt is doing this a lot, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do this. When you're trying to understand something in code, you ask AI to build you an explainer of it. You ask AI to help you build mermaid diagrams to understand it, or you could build yourself an interactive debugger. All sorts of things like that. This sort of thing is what vibe coding should be about, and I think we'll understand vibe coding tools will be like properly calibrated when they spend at least as much time building debugging tools as they do building the actual app that they're trying to build for you in the first place. Cool. Okay, so almost done here. So this is a piece of the prompt in my own coding agent, which is like very basic, but most AI coding tools that I've seen don't even have this. Like when you use most coding tools, they just treat the code as if that's all you need to run the app and continue to edit the app. But you should tell the AI to like maintain a shared representation of how the app works and then keep it up to date. And when you ask it to add more features, it should go back to it. It helps a lot. Okay, so I wrote this talk, and then I took all the principles that I kind of like figured out, and I used them to have a interactive coding session with an AI agent I made myself. But I should explain it a little bit. I haven't talked too much about Valtown and how Valtown works. But so Valtown is a place to make apps. It gets meta very quickly. So using Valtown, I made an app called Townie. And this this whole thing is Townie, and Townie can edit other apps on Valtown. Townie is an app on Valtown, so of course it can edit itself. So that's why Townie is editing Townie. That's why you see Townie twice. I'm not going to edit itself directly. I'm not crazy. I'm doing it in a branch. So I'm trying to add credit pricing to my AI agent, and I start with begging it to not code. I'm begging it to just help me think through, because when you have a coding agent and you give it the ability to write code, it will just write code. Even when you ask, you have to beg it to not write code. So I begged it, don't write code. Ask me a bunch of questions on how we should go about it. Read the system first, and then we'll talk. So I told it which files to look at. Give me a series of questions, and whatever you do, don't code. And here are its questions, and then here are my answers to its questions, and then here are its responses to my questions and answers. Here are my answers to those questions, and I ask for like a specific implementation of like, tell me exactly how you're going to do this, and importantly, build it in like an incremental way. And that's really important. Okay, so then I'm saying, you know what? Like, why do we need 3 database tables? Like, why? Like, let's just do. I use my human brain to be like, let's just do the 1 database table. I think there's a lot of extra information there, and it sycophantically said, "That's brilliant," and then proceeded to tell me it's going to make 2 database tables. Like, what? Yeah. That's what I want, and that one it doesn't need. And so I have to remind it, like, what's going on here? Can't we just do the 1? And they're like, you're absolutely right. Let's just do the 1. And then here's the plan. And I say, great, give me a plan, like, incorporate all these changes and give me the plan one final time. Gives me the plan, and I actually read the plan with my human eyes and my human brain. That's a good plan. Let's continue talking about it. Tell me everything you plan to do. I read it all. All right. And then it's almost perfect. It tells me it's going to comment things out instead of deleting them after it's like done testing stuff. I'm like, no, just delete it. We have version control. And then I finally give it the green light, and then it goes off and writes a bunch of code. At this point, I walked away and had a conversation with my fiance Emily, and let it do its coding. And I recently gave it a tool to test to run the code it just created. And so it's running its own code, getting errors. Now the errors it's getting are that it's not logged in, so it can't make the requests it's trying to test out. Classic, we've all been there. So then it very intelligently realizes that it needs to make a separate endpoint just for the testing purposes with no authentication, and then test that endpoint. And it gets an error with its test, not with its actual implementation. Fixes the error, and then it succeeds. It's working, and it continues. I can maybe speed this up a little bit. It continues testing all of its details, and then very importantly, it deletes its test files when it's done. It cleans up this tech debt. That's awesome. And then I have it continue to go on, and just more of the same. Okay, that is basically my talk. I'm just going to quickly wrap up. We are entering this brave new world where AI has so much potential, and yet it's also causing so much confusion. And so I just wanted to give you guys a couple quick reminders of what we need to keep in mind in order to not lose ourselves. Programming is fundamentally theory building, not pumping out lines of code. Vibe code definitionally is legacy code. Tools are better than agents. Chat is not the final interface. Thinking is better than delegating. Reading is more important and higher leverage than writing, especially when LLMs are writing all this code as fast as they can. We need to keep our LLMs on a tight leash. We need to leash them to our brains. They can't do things we don't understand, otherwise it's legacy code. We should be taking every inline learning opportunity. We need immediate connections to what we're creating. We can't go off for 2 minutes and scroll on TikTok and come back. That's not how creation works. And so in summary, the role of the human brain in programming is the same as it ever was. It's central. And if we remember all that, I think we have a shot at making programming even better. Thank you.